here today to talk to you about what I believe is our very best hope for America, and that is Rick Santorum. I am not speaking today on behalf of my congregation, but I am speaking today on behalf of a group of concerned Americans who asked you to cast your ballot for Rick Santorum. And here's why. We want a president who understands that shipping our jobs overseas is destroying our economy. And Rick's economic recovery program focuses on rebuilding the manufacturing sector and seeing to it that things are made in America again. And that's why we pick Rick. We want a president who has an appreciation for and a knowledge of our great U.S. military. Rick Santorum served on the Senate Armed Services Committee and worked to modernize and upgrade the U.S. military to respond to today's threats. And that's why we pick Rick. We want a president who is a staunch defender of Israel and our commitment to them. And that's why we pick Rick. We want a president who believes in giving a hand up, not a hand out. Rick Santorum authored, managed, and passed the Welfare Reform Act, creating a welfare to work program and eliminating a federal entitlement program for the first time in our nation's history. And that's why we pick Rick. We want a president who has never supported anything that even resembles Obamacare, let alone created the basis for it. Rick Santorum will repeal this abominable, unconstitutional legislation, and that's why we pick Rick. Woo! We're saddened by the lack of morality and integrity that's found in so many of our elected officials. Rick has been married to his wife Karen for 21 years, raising and homeschooling 7 children. And that's why we pick Rick. We want a president who has consistently supported traditional marriage, defined as one man and one woman. And that's why we pick Rick.
Yeah!
We want a president who doesn't run as a liberal, espouse moderate views, and yet claim to be conservative. Rick Santorum is the only candidate who has ever run as a conservative who has beaten incumbent Democrats not once, but 3 times. He is a proven, consistent conservative with a record of results, and that's why we pick Rick. We want a president who has never sat on the couch with Nancy Pelosi to tout the myth of man-made global warming, and that's why we pick Rick. We want a president who has always stood squarely against abortion. We want someone who is now and has always been pro-life. Rick Santorum passed the bill that ended partial birth abortion, and that's why we pick Rick. We want a president who does not believe it was America's foreign policy that brought about 9/11. He understands the threat of radical Islamists, and that's why we pick Rick. We reject the lies of the mainstream media who claim Rick Santorum wears his conservatism on his sleeve. No, my friend, Rick wears it in his heart. He doesn't have to read from a teleprompter or a cue card or be told what to say or how to say it, but from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And when Rick speaks, he expresses conservatism that comes from his heart. And that's why we pick Rick. Regardless of what the liberal left tries to say, Rick Santorum is not trying to establish a theocracy. He is simply trying to stop a secular takeover of this country that has reached ridiculous proportions, removing God from the public sector. Rick understands we declared our independence because these truths are self-evident. We are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. And when God gives us those rights, no man and no government has the ability to take them from us. And that's why we pick Rick. In closing, let us remember the words of President Ronald Reagan, who said, quote, "Americans are hungry to feel once again a sense of mission and greatness. I don't know about you, but I am impatient with those Republicans who after the last election rushed into print saying we must broaden the base of our party. when what they meant was to fuzz up and blur even more the differences between ourselves and our opponents. Then he said Republicans should arise, quote, raising a banner of no pale pastels, but bold colors which make it unmistakably clear where we stand on all of the issues troubling our people, end quote. If you too are tired of the pale pastels the establishment keeps trying to hand us for our candidates, if you too want some bold colors, some unmistakable differences between us and the Democrats, a clarion call that is solidly founded on the platform of the Republican Party, then the choice before us today is very clear. We must vote our values. We must vote conservatism, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we must pick Rick Santorum. Thank you very much.
Spend 5 minutes telling everybody why, but why should you candidate?
This is my own process. I've had to research all of the candidates, and I wanted to find somebody who was truly consistent. As I've researched the candidates, I've found inconsistencies in them. With the exception of one candidate who was consistent, I felt like we were very good at us. And so, as I began to
that's why they're men in black.
I found that
Chick-fil-A. Gotta go to work. I was like, he's in black, you're in black. What's going on?
He has stood for life, which is extremely important. In fact, it was extremely important to our founders, who said that our inalienable rights begin with the right to life. Rights number one on the list. Rick Santorum has never bothered on that issue. It's been very solid. And I think that what we need to do, we need to make sure we have a clear distinction between the Republicans and the Democrats. My fear is that other candidates are too much like President Obama. And if the people have to choose between Obama or Obama-lite, they'll go with the known quantity. I think it's time for us to draw a clear line in the sand, and Rick Santorum offers that.
Really caucuses of you participate
This is the first time. I've never really been involved politically other than casting my vote. But I'm so concerned about the direction of this country and literally believe that we are about to lose all of our freedoms. And so I decided it's time for me as a minister to remain silent no longer and to speak out. And so that's why I got involved. This is my first time to speak at a political meeting.
And why is it important enough to you to not only come here and be a part of the democratic process, but also speak out on behalf of Santorum?
Well, again, because I believe in what the man is promoting. I believe in his cause. I believe in his record. And I believe that he is the hope for getting this thing turned around. I do believe if President Obama is reelected, that, as I said, we will lose our freedoms. America will not be the same 4 years from now as it is right now if Barack Obama is reelected. And I believe that we have to find a candidate who is, as I said, a clear distinction between the two, so America has a choice. People say Rick Santorum cannot be elected because he's too conservative, but I take him back to the last time that a real, strong conservative ran, and that was Ronald Reagan, who carried 49 out of 50 states. That's pretty impressive. Ronald Reagan got Democrats to vote for him. Ronald Reagan got independents to vote for him. And Ronald Reagan was solidly conservative. And I believe that the heart and soul of America is staying just as conservative as it was then. And I believe Rick Santorum is carrying on the banner of Ronald Reagan.
And just how important is the cognitive process in your mind, towards choosing a candidate and moving forward into consumer?
Well, it's extremely important because if we get the wrong candidate, as I said, we're going to be faced with these, as I said in my speech, these penal pastels. If we don't pick the right candidate now, we're in trouble down the line. And so I believe this is where we're going to draw the lines, and this is where the difference is going to be made. It's not waiting until we get to November and then try to get whoever we pick in. I think we've got to make a stand now and pick the right man, and then going into November we can vote with confidence. I'm tired of voting against somebody. I want to vote for somebody.
Anything else to add about this experience? This is your first time speaking at sort of thing? Nick, you said you're a minister.
I am a pastor. That's fine. Pastor's fine. I pastor in a Pentecostal church in Olathe, and I've been speaking all of my life. I actually started preaching when I was 13 years old, 52 now, so almost 40 years. But as you could probably tell, I was a little nervous up there because it was a political thing. I'm more comfortable in the pulpit, more comfortable delivering the scriptures, but this was a political thing. It was the first time, so I was a bit nervous about it. But I do believe that this is crucial. I believe this election is crucial. In fact, it becomes a cliche, but I really believe this is the most crucial election in my lifetime.
And you already kind of addressed this, but Santorum, do you think can win in November?
Absolutely, he can win. Conservatism, every time that it's put forward, wins. The problem is when men want to water that down and come across as moderates. There is no moderate in history that's ever accomplished anything. There are none. Every man that's ever done anything has been very passionate about which side of the aisle he's on. But moderates never get anything done. We don't need a moderate Republican to run against Barack Obama. We need a strong conservative.
Thank you so much for your time there.